Okay.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first ever Harbor Commission year-end public briefing. I guess I'll start by calling the meeting to order. It is 4:30, Wednesday, Monday, December 8th. We're gonna do a roll call. I don't have an agenda. Commissioners present, we have Susan Whitmar, Jay Wiltz, Michael Collins, Glenn Carlson, myself, Evan Erickson, Mary Ross, and staff present. We have Katie Kisner. Via Zoom, we have Cal Lenahan. Rhonda Russell from Miffle is also here, along with numerous townspeople. Purpose of this meeting is to give a status update on budget performance versus payroll, not payroll. Just a status update, let everyone know where we're at, how we got here, where we're going in the future. We wouldn't be here today without saying thanks to the original Harbor Commission that was set up back in 2022. Who through a lot of diligence set up and negotiated the original sale. Also to Miffle for their willingness to enter into the sale, as well as the support of the townspeople. Core purpose tonight is to answer the following three questions. How was ferry traffic for 2025? How did financial performance compare to budget? And how will next year's budget and how will it impact ferry fees and schedule? A bit of background, September 2022, after it was understood that the Madeline Island Ferry Line was for sale, the Harbor Commission was created to define a way for the town of Oak Point to purchase the ferry. The Harbor Commission contracted a number of organizations to assess the value of vessels and real estate and design alternative debt servicing models. To fund all this, the governor's office in the state of Wisconsin provided us with $200,000 capital outlay, set up organizational costs. And in the spring of 2024, with the ratification of the electors and the town board, along with the townspeople, the Harbor Commission purchased the ferry for $17.3 million. To fund the purchase, the Harbor Commission employed revenue bonds backed by ferry operations, general obligation bonds backed by the town, and anticipation notes offered to private citizens. The debt is structured for 20-year repayment. Throughout, it remains our core strategy to have the purchase of the town's ferry line funded by users, not property taxes. To deliver continuity of ferry service, the Harbor Commission negotiated a $250,000 annual operating agreement, 4-year term with a newly formed entity of Miffle LLC. During this period, the former owners remains contracted operators of our ferry service. Now I get to turn it over to Katie, who will outline this year's traffic and financial performance highlights. I should add here that all of this information is now available on the town, or soon will be if it's not now.
It is.
On the Harbor Commission website portal site on the town's website.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen.
Also, as you came in, there's a sign up sheet. If you didn't sign it, maybe get it on the way out.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
And we'll run through this presentation portion and then we'll open the floor to questions.
Okay, just for this next little portion,
there are going to be a bunch of numbers and things like that on the screen. Just to reiterate what Zach just said, with the help of Alex, we now have all of this information on the town's website. So that includes kind of this breakdown of the ridership from 2024 versus 2025, which we'll continue to add on to, as well as each month I provide the Harbor Commission with kind of like the monthly reports, which has a much more in-depth detailed breakdown of the finances each month. Those are also on the website. So kind of what we're showing up here is just a brief, very brief overview. Ultimately, for the 2024 versus 2025 ridership, you can see down here at the bottom, ridership was down, not significantly and not for all categories, but it is a little bit down, 98% from 2024 to 2025. So this is the adults, children, cars. It all lines up here. Cars, bikes, trucks. So we are over in the trucks category. With that being said, and that'll lead into the next little bit that I have, with the ridership being down slightly from 2024 into 2025, our ticket sales and ticket sales revenue are not down. Bear with me one second here. I'm trying to switch my page here. Okay. And so this is just kind of a very brief highlight of what all is included in the reports that are on the website. And this is just January 1st through October 31st. I think currently on the website, we have everything through September. October will be up there shortly as well. But just ticket sales revenue for the January through October from 2024 to 2025 is up about 15.7%. That is with the tariff increase that we had this year. And just kind of the income highlights, ticket sales, mail contracts, and parcel hauling. Those are kind of our main sources of income throughout the year. Once again, a lot of different numbers, but these are kind of the ones that will probably stand out the most on those reports. Our income at the top, just a few expense highlights. And this does not, there's a lengthy list of expenses. This does not cover that, but these are just some of the larger expense line items that we have. Fuel and oil, utilities, payroll being one of the largest. A lot of different moving parts of the ferry line, and need the staff to keep that going. Something that's not included in there that you will see a more detailed breakdown of online is like our repairs and supplies line item, as well as like capital projects that will be broken down into more detail online. Just still kind of scrolling through our overview here. One thing I did want to point out are these items in red, which have all been paid so far this year. This is like our debt service that we owe. And that is a huge expense that we have each year, and that we have been very diligent about making sure that that money gets put away to pay that debt service from the purchase that was made last year. And then because this is just January through October, it does look like we have a very lovely net income of this. That does not include all of those debt payments that were paid on December 1st. So what you see that's currently online all looks very, very great. And we are still on track for that, but we're not doing quite that great. The December financials will be up at the end of December.
That's only through the end of October.
Correct.
Okay, so you got the last 35 weeks or so is it doesn't reflect any expenses in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, so basically November and December.
Okay.
which a good chunk of that are those items in red and the debt service payments that we've just made. But that will make it to the website, so you'll see that for the end of the year reports. Another thing that I did want to point out that is on the website, and if you go to the town's website, there's a button at the top that says government. If you click that, it drops down and shows all the different boards. If you click on Harbor Commission, that takes you to the page that has links to all the reports and everything. It also has my email on there as well. And just want to strongly encourage folks that if you do want to reach out to the Harbor Commission, that's a great email to use. I don't speak for the Harbor Commission, but I make sure that they get anything that comes through there. Sometimes I have an answer to your question already. Sometimes I don't, but I make sure that it gets to the right people to discuss it. And that's all that I have.
All right, I'll turn it over to Glenn. I think we'll highlight, where we go from here.
Great.
Something.
Thanks, Zach, and thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone, for joining up on this cold evening. Katie just went over what we've seen so far in 2025. And I just want to give you some highlights for 2026, the budget, as well as potential schedule changes that we're looking at. I guess two items. We do have a balanced budget. And that includes normally in a profit and loss budget, you wouldn't put in what you've been paying down on principal on loans, but we're including that as an expense, just so that everyone understands that we're not going to have a profit of $500,000 a year. We're actually paying $500,000 a year of principal on the loans that we took out, in addition to the interest. And so we're showing a balanced budget of zero that takes into account all of the principal and interest debt service payments. That said, and I think one of the things that we've seen, despite some significant tariff increases last year, traffic was down minimally. Adult traffic was, as Katie said, like 98.5% of what it was the year before. And overall, as she pointed out, it's 15% over the revenue from the year before. This year, I think the two takeaways, other than we're planning a balanced budget, are one, we are not asking the town to put any of the expense on the tax levy. And so this is now the second year, well, as long as we've been in existence, we haven't had to put anything on the tax levy. But even, I think, more exciting for a lot of us is that the Harbor Commission is not intending to ask for a tariff increase for this year. And so the rates will stay the same this year as they were last year. With that said, I do have some, and this includes some, for the most part, schedule enhancements that we're looking at. And thank you to Cal and his staff for putting this together in a way that we can communicate, I think, fairly well. And this is not set in stone yet. So, if you have objections, concerns, this would probably not tonight, but soon be a good time to express those. You could express them tonight as well. So I'm going to just go through in sort of the time blocks. Okay. So in the late April, we'll start with the January 3rd through the open, the freeze up. We're not expecting any changes. As everyone knows, the weather and the ice really affect the schedule. So we're not planning any changes to those periods. However, starting with the April 24th through May 7th, we're gonna add 6 PM and 7 PM trips on Wednesdays to the island, and 6:30 and 7:30 PM trips from the island to Bayfield. And the 5 PM during that period, the 5 PM to the island, Saturday through Tuesday is going to move to a 5:30. Okay. And if this isn't on the website, it will be as soon as it gets finalized. The May 8th to June 12th, there's been an 8 PM added to the island. Well, actually 8 PM to the island and 7:30 PM to Bayfield daily. It had been, but that was only Thursday through Saturday. So now it's daily. There will be an 8 PM from May 8th to June 12th, 8 PM to the island and 7:30 to the Bayfield daily. No changes in the June 12th to 24th period, and no changes for the June 25th to August 31st period. Looking September 1st to October 19th, we added a 7 PM to the island Monday to Wednesday, which now will make for a 7 PM to the island, right at Labor Day till basically Fall Fest, 7 PM to the island Monday through Saturday, as a result of adding the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to that. And this extended period is going to go until November 1st. Is the plan. October 20th to November 1st, we're adding a 6 PM and 7 PM, 6 additional days a week until the November 2nd schedule change. And a 6:30 PM from Bayfield, or from the island to Bayfield. So 6 PM and 7 PM, an additional 6 days a week from Bayfield, and then a 6:30 PM from the island. Additionally, the 9 PM, 10 PM Fridays would extend during this time as well. The November 2nd to November 29th, we're going to continue the changes that were made late in 2025. This has the requested change from a 5 PM to a 5:30 PM island trip Monday through Thursday. And then after November 30th, we're not anticipating any changes again due to weather and icing. So that's all I have. Zach?
Yes, we'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Paul.
This won't affect any special boats or special loads Monday through Friday, correct?
Cal? Did you hear what Paul was
Yeah.
asking? If this
Can you
will
guys hear me?
affect any special boats?
Special loads Monday through Friday, like say on 8:15.
No, at this time
You're
with the
muted,
schedule,
Cal. Or volumes.
can't hear me?
Just say
With the
yes.
remote.
Hang on a second, Cal. I don't think it's you. I think it's us. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Just say
Okay,
yes.
Yes, I mean, we're planning,
Cal, I don't think it's you. I think it's us. Stand by. I have to turn the volume. Oh, yeah.
yes, we're not anticipating, is this working?
Yeah.
I mean, thumbs up. Is that,
I think it's us. Stand by. I have to turn the volume. Oh, yeah.
yes, we're not anticipating, is this working?
Yeah.
I mean, thumbs up. Is that,
I think it's us. Stand by. I have to turn the volume. Oh, yeah.
yes, we're not anticipating, is this working?
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, thumbs up. Is that,
I think it's us. Stand by. I have to turn the volume.
we're not anticipating.
Can we hear Cal now?
Hello?
Yep, there we go.
Sorry, that was on our end.
Okay, so the short of it is this schedule, that, this kind of recommended or draft schedule at this stage We feel that we're going to be able to offer that schedule without any significant impact to commercial traffic. That we will have to take on more staff, to be able to kind of cover this. It is a significantly expanded schedule in the shoulder season, but we've gone through the schedule already for 2026 and made mock schedules in many of these key areas. And, we feel we're on track to be able to cover that without any compromises being made to those commercial trips such as propane or fuel deliveries, or other large trips or vehicles in the morning, cement trucks, all those things. We hope to be able to accommodate the same level of traffic this year, in addition to later trips for riders as well.
I'll hold you to it.
All right, thank you.
Yes. So Saturday, Sunday, there's no boat in the afternoon. Is there any talk of like 2:45, 3 o'clock? Is there any talk of restoring that, or this time of year, or?
Is that a
Did you
question
hear it?
No,
I can't hear the question too well.
Yeah,
What
on
was the question?
Saturdays and Sundays, their schedule's really limited. Like this Monday through Friday, only 3:30, Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock. Is this gonna continue, or is there any? Are you gonna try to run a boat on a weekend day, afternoon like that?
Yeah, so my understanding is there's a 4 as
Yeah.
well.
12 to 4. Right now. On Saturdays and Sundays.
1, 2, 4, right, and I'm asking about the 3 o'clock. Why don't they run at 3 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday afternoon?
So we run a limited staff on the weekends. We don't have as many because we don't have as much traffic. So again, this time of the year, we run into, ice buildup, snow buildup, and we need some breaks in the schedule to be able to, clear that and work within that. We haven't seen, over full trips, typically speaking, that leave traffic behind during those times. So it allows us an opportunity to, get the vessel back in shape for the next trip.
Don't know. Thank you.
it's tough.
Else? Questions, comments?
The commission was very kind this past fall in helping Mary Lawson and others helping arrange a special trip to Chautauqua and back to one of the concerts. I don't know if there's been any conversation with that Chautauqua and other association over on the other side about subsidizing some trips or having some later trips. Any information about that? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
I know, I know what you're talking about. I don't believe that we've had any correspondence with Big Top.
They set their schedule so late. It's very difficult to plan, late trips on a Thursday when you don't even know Chautauqua's schedule yet. It usually doesn't come out.
A lot of
until May.
conversations with, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No.
but we did talk with them a lot about trying to get subsidies, to try to work with them. They had past deals where they had subsidized Miffle, so we did work with them to try to achieve as many later boats as possible.
Would that happen in the coming year too, possibly? Or maybe that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah, they're always interested in trying to work with us to try to see what we can do, but they were less willing to contribute financially than in the past.
They had a meeting with us and described their annual losses. And their goal was to cut their losses in half, but they were still substantial. And after we talked about the obvious interest in doing that, we got we'll get back to you.
I see.
And I think they'll get back to us one way or the other. But in years past, as Jay said, they contributed. But without that partnership, it doesn't make sense.
And I'd just like to add that we have the Harbor Commission is moving towards having requests for special boats go through Katie, as opposed to, trying to get a hold of Cal or somebody at the ferry line. Ultimately, the decision on special boats, assuming safety is not an issue, is gonna be a Harbor Commission decision based on cost. And so rather than have to go to Cal and Cal comes to Katie and Katie comes to the Harbor Commission, just go straight to Katie and she'll bring requests to the Harbor Commission. And that will hopefully be more efficient.
That's a good idea. Katie was very helpful. Thank you very much. That's good.
Will there be a winter surcharge this year again?
I believe so.
When will that go into effect?
December 21st.
How much would that be?
It's in the tariff, you know, it's like. I can't remember. It's a couple bucks on the car and a little bit of something on the passenger. It's the same tariff as.
Something I see every year. Is this a continuing, this year surcharge? Is this every year?
Well, I'll take a shot at this. You know, it really depends on our ability to continue to not otherwise increase tariffs and to otherwise not put a burden on the property tax payers. I think that everyone on the Harbor Commission is aware that the winter surcharge disproportionately affects islanders. Okay, and so I think that at least as far as I'm concerned, when we do have additional room to lower some of these tariffs, I think the winter transportation surcharge would be high on the list of things to get rid of.
The winter operations lose money on a regular basis. It can be from 100 to 200,000 a month. It depends on, you know, how much, you know, breakdowns, how many crew, how much, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's a losing, the ferry line loses money from the end of October through, you know, early to mid-May.
In the past, there's been no winter surcharge. Were you losing money all those other years?
There was a winter surcharge for quite a few years now. Yeah. So it's just, you know, I mean, if you have a boat with 2 or 3 crew, and you have 2 cars on it, you know what I mean? And they're Mag card users. There's no way you're gonna cover the cost.
I'd like to add to Robin and Glenn's statement that as Katie outlined, we have a tremendous amount of debt, $17 million worth that we're paying down, but we're at the very beginning of that process. But hopefully, as debt works and payments work, that will come down. And then if we run everything right and everything goes well, then we'll be able to actually decrease prices, keep tariffs down, do all the things that ensure that the community has viable lifeline to the main line forever, which is why I think everybody is sitting here and all of you are sitting here in this room to make sure that this like all works, right? So, but if we do it right, it should get better theoretically.
Only problem, Jay, is one day you're gonna have to get yourself a new ice breaking ferry boat, and then it's put it this way, Jay, the last time the New York City subway made money was back in the year 2000. Never does. As soon as it's perpetually, you're always going to have to be spending money on something. It's just the way it is. The Staten Island ferry, the Washington Island ferry, the same thing. You're never not going to be spending money. It's a bottomless pit. I'm sorry. You're always going to have debt.
Excuse me.
Sorry about that, Tyler.
Have you explored options to get it from, instead of like the winters, charge a summer surcharge? Charge, you know.
So we
We
increased
feel like
fares
the
from
locals are
whole year
shouldering the
to
ferry for the convenience of the summer. Tourists, why don't you hit them instead of, you know, like, there's money there, no doubt, just, you know.
We did, so we increased the tariffs about like on average about 15% last year for the summer people. So there was an increase, like, and you know, and we were hoping that didn't bring ridership down too much, that it was gonna affect the overall income. And it didn't, we had a net positive, so. You know, you can, and then there's always that threshold of how much can we raise the summer tariffs before people are like, that's just too expensive to come over for the day. And then we start to lose that net gain.
But even at that.
But it's all speculative, I'm sorry, so it is all speculative, we're guessing how much can we charge the summer people and then not end up losing ridership.
Well, perhaps there's slower boats that you could say, hey, we'll offer a lower rate. We gotta run it anyway. It's typically a slow boat. Why don't, give us something. Give us a deal somewhere.
Well, if you use a mega card, you're already.
I know, I get that, but it's, to go get groceries is ridiculous. I mean,
We did eliminate, there was a like peak traffic surcharge that had been in place for years, where if you
Yeah.
went, it's like Friday afternoon all the way through the weekend, which is when most islanders to get off the.
right,
off the island
but
anyway.
then again, that seems to go unadvertised, I hear about like, oh, get a mag card, okay, fine. It just seems like you've got to dig in a little to find, when these things happen, you've got to dig in to find them, there's no. Not really user friendly, it's like. The break here. Try to run a business here, you say, okay, just charge more to the people that you're working for, but you've got to stay competitive when you're working here, you just can't. Just can't increase your rates constantly. Try getting equipment over here, try getting fuel, these things, we need these things day to day. And it's just, almost everyone I know has got a terrible story about some kind of ferry line bill or something that happened down there, and it's just, I hear it all over the place.
I'll answer that. We're trying. That's what we're here trying to do.
Right.
We're trying to keep the costs down and trying to keep the services going. Make sure that we have enough boats running for the community and that we keep this thing afloat and pay down the debt.
What I was gonna point out is that the ridership over the summer was down to 98% of last year's traffic. So we're not guaranteed increases of, every year on the revenue side. It was only because of the tariff that we managed to turn it into some kind of a.
Well, I think you're gonna see lower ridership when the rates are skyrocket. People are
Well,
less like
last year
myself.
was the skyrocket and we saw a 2%
challenge
hit
stuff.
for it.
Yeah.
2% hit. So we keep that kind of number in mind. There's, how comfortable, where do you get cut off on comfort?
There's no easy answer that's gonna please everyone. I mean, we're really balancing a fine line. Keeping the balanced budget, making enough money to offer the trips and. Yeah.
When we were-
It's been affordable.
When we were trying to calculate what tariffs need to be in order to cover the revenue that we needed, one of the things that we wanted to cover was not increasing mag card rates at the same percentage that we would be raising cash paying adult, cash paying vehicle. I believe we raised the cash paying adult to 13%, whereas the mag card rate was only raised 3 or 4%.
It was, low single digits.
We also didn't raise any of the freight prices or pricing for per gallon on fuel delivery because we know that affects the people that live here. Between Glenn, Katie, Robin and Cal, there was a lot of spreadsheets that went around to try to figure out how to make our rates work where we are collecting from the visitors rather than trying to impact the locals more.
The other thing you have to recall is it's not just, you raise it so much to collect more from visitors. What if you get a recession, a doozy of a recession like 07, 08, 09? People might say, screw it, I'm not coming over here to get gouged. And it's not just a 2% reduction, maybe it's 15 or 20%. That's beyond your control. You can say, well, fine, I'm gonna reduce rates 20%. People still aren't gonna come because they don't have a job. And you got other things to worry about, this whole staycation BS. Guess what? I'm not going to Mantle Island. I'm gonna stay in the cities and go to a museum or a library because I can't afford to even go out of state. That's the other thing you gotta weigh into the factor.
And this was a significant raising of tariffs this past year was a bit of an experiment, a bit of a risk, because we didn't know. And we had been hearing comments from Miffle that they thought we were going to see a significant drop off in ridership. And we decided we were gonna go with our gut, which told us that there probably wasn't gonna be that significant of a drop off, and it seems that paid off, but we're not gonna take that bet again this year. We're not gonna raise tariffs this year. And then we will see. I mean, it could be, Paul, your dire predictions could come to pass regardless.
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not a mind reader.
No, well,
No one is.
no one knows what's gonna happen with the economy this next year. But we're not going to compound what might otherwise happen by also increasing the tariffs. So, just because we're not gonna increase tariffs doesn't mean we're gonna not see a reduction in revenue anyhow. But again, we are banking on the fact that Madeline Island continues to be a very popular destination. And it does seem to be, although there are certainly a lot of people who, are feeling the effects of the recession, unemployment, a lot of people aren't. And, it does seem that when people go on vacation, to some degree, they forget about their household budget.
Actually, the recent history,
Hmm.
When the business of travel business is terrible, hotel occupancies are in the toilet. The island seems to do pretty well, especially in bad times. Strange characteristic. Maybe it's just because it's nearby a big city. But so far, we've been spared a lot of those huge hits, except in the 08-09.
Draw to the outdoors, perhaps.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Evan.
There's been a lot of chatter about the future of a ice-breaking ferry boat, or having an ice-breaking ferry boat. The Queen is nearly 60 years old, and Mitchell was even older. So my question is that something the Harbor Commission is actively trying to figure out how to accomplish, because it costs a lot of money?
We have applied for an EPA grant that would help us build a potential electric ice breaking ferry that had a very small, I think it was was it a 90-10 or 80-20 match, Cal?
It was a 90-10, Evan.
And then we've also submitted through Tammy Baldwin's office, I think around 25 million for funding an ice breaking boat. So we are looking at ways to fund an ice breaking boat that doesn't 100% come out of our pocket.
Make it wood powered.
Going back to coal.
What's the
The advantage of the town owning the ferry operation versus private company is that we have a greater opportunity to search for grants to fund a new ice breaking boat.
Yeah, the wind sleds are, the traffic we have in the wind sleds, which are extremely expensive and prone to breaking down. You do have to move in that direction. So what is the kind of the bulk estimated cost of an ice breaking boat?
Expensive.
Yeah. Let's have some idea.
Now we'll answer the question.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big range, and it depends on really what you want it to do and what your objective is. There's a lot of ideas that are getting floated around, and I can tell you MIF LLC is exploring them with shipyards and architects, just kind of on an introductory level of what is this like, what's possible, what's the market doing. And so to answer your question, to make a vessel like, the Bayfield and La Pointe, like a large double-ended ice-breaking ferry, a very capable ice-breaking ferry that could be utilized all summer long, which would be, potentially advantageous because your new boat is making you money in the summer as well as, working in the winter. Something like a large ice-breaking ferry like that, really could be, as of a year or so ago, entry level 20 million. It could go up to 30 pretty quickly, and I've heard numbers as high as 40. Although I don't believe that to be, necessarily that credible, but somewhere in that range. I feel in the 20 to 30 is a pretty realistic. There's things that you can do that you could spend more money up front if you're doing something like a grant, and getting something that's a hybrid, that's like diesel electric or all electric, that could lower the operating cost of running that ferry on the daily level massively, like 40%. You could see huge savings by running, a hybrid or electric ferry. And we're actually working with Excel in a really good spot for something like that. But, scaling that down then, to, let's say, another option that was brought up is something along the lines of maybe a passenger only icebreaker. And, the only reason that would be a potential or something worth exploring is just because once of course you scale it down, it doesn't have to haul cars, and it doesn't, have to be as large. It's a lot easier to break a small path in the ice. And you could make it passenger only. You could make it the same size as the Queen, but it could break significantly more than the Queen just because it's not as wide. Something like that is, again, a little bit maybe closer to 10 million in that range. You could retrofit a boat, which could bring that price down lower. There's a lot of options, but in this market of shipbuilding, it's very difficult to get really accurate numbers up front. But that's kind of what we're looking at, and so there's a range. You could aim for something smaller and cheaper if the town had to pay more of the bill, or you could aim for something significantly larger and more capable if you were to utilize something like an EPA grant or a federal transportation grant that can, cover the entry cost of something like that. And then, once we have that in the fleet, yes, we'd still have to likely pay a match. However, the operational cost of a new ferry would be significantly lower, at least for several years. And, we'd probably see some savings there as well. So that's somewhat of the range that we're working with. However, we don't have a locked in, well, we're going to get this type of ferry to do this, or we're going to get this type of passenger boat to do this. I think it's really early in, establishing what that would work best for the town. And then additionally finding what source of grant would we use to meet that goal. Does that answer it for you, or is there anything else I could talk to on that?
Be an annual chore. Every single time there's a grant window, we have new capacity in grant writing in this town.
So we bought an entire ferry, bunch of boats and everything for 17 million, and a new icebreaker is 20 million.
Yeah, got a good deal.
Yeah.
If we were to get a grant for one, they would almost double the value of our company. So that would be pretty good.
Don't worry, Evan, they print more money every day, so.
I think the idea of a smaller boat that at least does passengers and breaks a foot or better of ice, kind of get rid of the wind sleds. That would at least get you there. It'd be a lot cheaper, and maybe it could hold one car, an ambulance, something like that, something small, basic. You get to that part, and then the Queen can take over eventually. But to go with the 30 million boat, that sounds like 10 years out, but you never know.
It's easier to get a smaller grant than a larger grant.
Sounds right. I think a boat that replaces the wind sled would help. Those wind sleds are expensive.
I think that would be a great idea.
Just something. Buy the Sundew.
I bet you like the wind sleds.
I don't mind them, but a lot of other people, will. I get along with them just great. A lot of other people.
The expanded schedule was described for the shoulder seasons. How does that affect the costs? How will that be covered?
Well, it's in the budget. To include those additional trips. So we're again expecting that the revenues will cover those trips. Obviously, those extra trips are going to, especially in the shoulder season, probably generate a fair amount of revenue, which at this point we're still don't know how much revenue it'll generate. Part of this also is as we expand the schedule, hopefully people are going to be able to take advantage of it more and more and more. So we're cognizant that this is kind of an incremental thing. And that it might not be the first year is going to be profitable to have these extra boats in the shoulder season. But it might take, maybe in 2 or 3 years after people get used to the fact that there are these later boats and it gets to be known, we might see them starting to generate profit.
Just curious, what did the La Pointe cost when you built it?
Nipple build.
Miffle, yeah, what did that cost?
The point or
The La
We
Pointe.
paid,
they rehabbed it, didn't they?
Yeah,
we paid like $800,000 for it. The total cost of the point was probably about 4.5 million.
Cheap,
With what we put into it and what we paid for it.
make that do a foot ice.
It just doesn't break ice.
Yeah.
Make it do a foot ice.
It happens. It's double ended, so that means you're coming into the dock with the propeller. The opposite end propeller, and so it has an ice bow on it, which kind of takes more surface ice. But, when you're talking heavy ice, you need a V hull like the Island Queen or the Nichibu.
Wasn't Cal just talking about a double end ender?
Yeah, but that's like heavy duty.
A double ender that's designed for.
Ice and shoot them and like chop it up. It's
Yeah.
like impels the.
Totally different.
Well, and it would have a different hull than what the Bayfield and the Point has. It wouldn't be like a barge, it'd be more, a V hull.
But yeah, La Pointe was built for Texas ice. So it handles Texas ice very well, just not Wisconsin ice.
Texas.
That was Texas. Might be something.
I think the more okay when that comes up.
Anyone else have anything they would like to ask or see?
Mine was
Just-
giving a discount to these kids that come for school trips. I'd say charge them the full rate. I mean, you're talking about, kids and people that come over here, the tourists, they charge them whatever. I mean, if it's $8 or $9, so be it. I mean, if I go to their community and want to go to the museum, I gotta pay the full price. Why not?
I bet when you were in 6th grade, you got in the museum for half price.
I remember guys, they charged me triple. They don't look at me and they said, this putz, they're charging them triple. He was ever charged the local school.
Well, if no one has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
We don't want to
Adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Cal. Thank you.
Remodeling.